This week's top Disney news stories include the retheming of Splash Mountain and a bunch of different Disney parks reopening news for multiple different parks. There are also stories about Mulan and Universal. Stay tuned, and I'll break it all down. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now it's that time of the week once more, so on to this week's biggest Disney news stories. Our top story of the week is most certainly that Splash Mountain is going to be rethemed. Now, it was announced just this Thursday that for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, Splash Mountain will be rethemed to Princess and the Frog. The story will apparently pick up after the final kiss from the movie as they are preparing for their first ever Mardi Gras performance. In Disneyland especially, this will fit in with the nearby New Orleans and Louisiana Bayou area, so it'll kind of be an extension of that land that already exists. Now, Charita Carter, senior creative producer over at Disney Imagineering, will be leading the project. She also went ahead and led the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway recently, so she has plenty of experience working over at Disney, working on big projects. And apparently the conceptual design is already well underway, and there will be a timeline developed soon. Apparently Disney executives had privately been discussing abandoning the Song of the South theming for at least 5 years. Last summer, Disney said that a plan was put into motion to give the ride a Princess and the Frog storyline. Bob Weiss, the current president of Walt Disney Imagineering, commissioned concept art, which you can see. And Disney has said that it has now sped up the public unveiling of the project because of the current cultural conversation about race, as they put it. Tokyo Disneyland, which is not actually owned by Disney, just Friday came out with a statement saying that they were currently discussing whether to retheme their Splash Mountain. Now, Splash Mountain, not a lot of people are clearly aware of what it is based on, but it is actually based on Song of the South, which is a 1946 movie by Disney that was a combination of live action and animation, which was based on the racist Uncle Remus stories. Now, this movie is one that Disney has long worked to distance itself from incredibly. Certainly since the 90s anyway. Bob Iger recently went ahead and said when talking about Song of the South going on to Disney Plus that, "I've felt for as long as I've been CEO that Song of the South, even with a disclaimer, was just not appropriate in today's world." This is how much Disney has distanced themselves from Song of the South, yet it was still the theming of a major ride within their parks. Something which I reported on becoming a bigger issue, especially recently with some new petitions that were going up for its removal. Now, Splash Mountain in Disneyland was built in 1989, and then 3 years later, it was also built over in Walt Disney World and Disneyland Tokyo. So it has been around for a while at this point. And frankly, talking from my own point of view, yes, it needs to go. Perhaps I'll do a video at some point, say do some Disneyland history on Splash Mountain, or do a video about Song of the South. If you don't know how racist that background is, start looking into it, because it is really ugly, actually. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's the most racist thing that Disney has done. There's some Mickey cartoons with Mickey in blackface going way back, so there's certainly some other really ugly stuff that Disney has done in the past. And that's not even getting into, say, Siamese cats over in Lady and the Tramp, or getting into Native Americans over in Peter Pan, etc., etc. So Disney certainly has an iffy history, but at least they're working to change it here in certain cases. Now, as far as my opinion about whether Splash Mountain really would have changed if it weren't for the pressure put on here during this specific year, well, here's the thing. There are always all kinds of projects that Disney Imagineering is working on or hoping to go ahead and move forward. So just because it's been being discussed for 5 years, just because for a year they've really been more seriously talking, or even that they've got concept art, does not mean that it ever would have come to reality. Now that they've announced it, we can be pretty confident it's probably going to happen, especially given how charged a topic it is. But just bear in mind, the fact they were working on it doesn't mean it was really going to happen before all the uproar came out over these past few weeks about Splash Mountain. So credit where credit is due. And first thought I put that credit to is especially all the public pressure that went on to Disney over these past few weeks. And especially to the one Disney cast member, I can't remember the name, who really posted their idea of Princess and the Frog, and that really caught on, and a lot of other people went ahead and picked that up afterward. I said, kudos right there. And yes, kudos to the people within Disney who were championing the idea of changing Splash Mountain. Clearly those people also had a definite impact. And finally, yes, Disney itself definitely gets some credit as well for making the right decision here in the end. Will a number of us miss some of the positive aspects of Splash Mountain? Oh, sure, of course. I mean, I've ridden Splash Mountain many times through my life. And many times before I ever really had any clue about the racist background of that movie. And so, trust me, having had no knowledge about that for many times that I've been to it in my life, I was able to purely enjoy it without any problem. It's a great log ride. It is really well built. The coloring, the theming, yes, it is quite fun in that sense. The problem is, that's not enough. Not enough when you're talking about the problems that are involved in Splash Mountain. So this, I think, is definitely good news. I think we should always be working to improve things and make them better, and righting the wrongs that have been made in the past. And frankly, if you have a problem just with change as a whole in Disney parks, well, I understand the nostalgia on it. Trust me, I miss certain things that used to exist. In fact, we can talk about the original version of Star Tours, but hey, the new version is pretty cool too. But again, you're missing the point of the parks. The parks are all about change. That was what they were founded on. Look at Walt Disney. So definitely change is fine too. And certainly correcting racism within the parks, it should certainly be considered to be fine in my opinion as well. So there's where I stand on the retheming of Splash Mountain. Hey, if you're interested in a Disney history on Splash Mountain or me talking about Song of the South, let me know down and below in the comments. And moving right along, our next story is a whole bunch of theme park reopening news for a bunch of the different Disney parks. So first off, Disneyland's reopening has been delayed. Disney stated that after hearing they would not receive theme park reopening guidelines until after July 4th, that they felt they would be unable to open on their previously planned date of July 17th and therefore have postponed the opening to some unspecified date at this point in time. Now, their official statement is very careful to put the blame purely over on the state and doesn't make any acknowledgement of the increasing COVID-19 cases in the state. And hey, I'm going to say if Disney wants to pass the buck, then I'll let them, and I will instead say thank you to California for not reopening the theme parks. Frankly, things are not in control over in California. They're not in control in the US as a whole. And it's not the right time to be reopening theme parks and forcing employees, cast members, and exposing more of the public to increased dangers from COVID-19. It's time to do the responsible thing. We just need to have the rest of the responsible side from our governments to make sure to take care of the people during these times when they're not able to get a paycheck as easily, or maybe don't even have a job, etc. That said, Disney has announced that Downtown Disney will still be reopening on July 9th. Moving across the world over to France, we have some Disneyland Paris reopening news. Disneyland Paris will officially be reopening on July 15th, and that's all the parks in there too. Now you can expect the usual set of conditions for safety, etc., etc. If you're interested in some of that, you can look at some of my previous news videos on the subject and get an idea for what kind of restrictions are going to be in place. Looking at parks like Shanghai Disneyland and Hong Kong Disneyland and Disney Springs down over at Walt Disney World gives you a great idea what those different conditions are. In a similar vein, Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea will be reopening on July 1st. So we've got some definite parks opening elsewhere in the world where things are a lot more under control than they are here in the US. Now, speaking of the US, over in the state of Florida, over at Walt Disney World, there has not been any announcement about delaying the reopening at this stage. There has been a sharp rise in new cases in Florida recently, being one of the worst states for rising cases of COVID-19 recently. Just on Friday, it went up by almost 9,000 new cases, and Saturday, 9,500 new cases. To put that in some perspective, it was only around 3,800 last Friday, and it was already rising at that point. Now, this has led multiple groups to call on Disney and the state to go ahead and stop the reopening process. For instance, the Actors Equity Association, Mary McCall, who's the executive director, went ahead and called on Disney to postpone the reopening. What she said was that if Disneyland has postponed, it is unclear how Walt Disney World can responsibly move forward reopening when coronavirus cases are much worse in Florida. She called it deeply disturbing that Disney is refusing to provide regular testing to some of their workers while coronavirus cases are surging in Florida, and called on Disney to go ahead and really focus on science and put the safety of their people first. Also, a Walt Disney World cast member, Katie Belisle, went ahead and started a petition online that has over 15,000 signatures currently, and is also calling for not opening Walt Disney World already. As she says in the petition, keeping ourselves and our visitors safe is our number one priority in every theme park. This includes our health and well-being. We are encouraged to say something when we see something that we deem as unsafe, so we're speaking up. As she also said, people are more important than making a profit. Now, one of those phrases with Disney is that safety begins with me. So, Disney, with the safety of your guests and your cast members first here. I just can't fathom opening Disney World with the COVID-19 pandemic doing what it currently is in Florida, the way it is surging over there. And frankly, I can't imagine that Disney actually will open on the current expected dates of July 11th and July 15th. I see it as an unlikely prospect at this point in time. To think that 2 weeks from now, when cases are currently surging hugely in Florida, and Florida is not really taking steps to go ahead and close down. They've taken a few steps. They've cut off alcohol, but not much. So again, I definitely see this as a problem, and I guess is that Disney World certainly will delay, but we don't know yet, so we will see what we see. Now, I, like anyone else, would love to be in the parks, but only if it were safe to do so. And even if I knew that I wouldn't get horribly sick or anything else, if it's helping make it more dangerous for everyone else, well, then I still wouldn't want to do it, because I do care about everyone else's health and safety too. I look forward to the day that we can get past this pandemic and really start to come back to something more normal. I really feel for everybody that has been affected by COVID-19. It's not a great situation, or anybody that's been affected indirectly in terms of, say, losing a job. That it's a nasty pandemic, and it is having nasty effects, especially on our society here in the US, where we still don't have it under control, and I hope we do finally turn that corner and start taking it seriously and get it under control. So here's hoping, everyone. Well, anyway, let's move off to something else. So it's time for everyone's favorite section, the lightning round. A few quick headlines of bigger stories. Disney has decided to delay Mulan from opening on July 25th. Its new date will be August 21st. There's a new trailer for Hamilton, which will be coming out to Disney Plus on July 3rd. Probably the biggest release coming up in July. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Universal announced on Tuesday that it had decided to lay off an undisclosed number of its theme park staff. Now, this is relevant to Disney, as trends that affect Universal will often affect Disney as well. This points to a likely prospect that there will be layoffs for Disney at its theme parks as well in the future. D23's Destination D, Fantastic Worlds, has been delayed until 2021. It had been scheduled to be at Walt Disney World for the 20th to the 22nd of November. Disney has officially confirmed that the NBA will be resuming its season on July 30th at Walt Disney World. This was the final step to make that last confirmation to be completely 100% that this is all happening. So soon the NBA will be back and playing again. Well, there you have it, everyone. That's the news for this week. Did I miss any big Disney news stories? And what do you think about the retheming of Splash Mountain, or say the various reopening news? Let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new video. If you haven't done it yet, please click that subscribe button and ring the bell. have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.